October 10, 2024, News Report 1. On October 10, 2024, the ASEAN Summit was held in Vientiane, the capital of Laos, from October 9 to 11. On October 10, Chinese Premier Li Qiang held a summit with ASEAN leaders. During the meeting, Philippine President Marcos openly questioned Li Qiang's stance. In his opening remarks at the summit, Li Qiang did not mention the South China Sea disputes but emphasized that strengthening trade relations between China and ASEAN is beneficial for ASEAN. However, Marcos responded directly, stating that economic cooperation is inseparable from political security and that ASEAN and China cannot pretend that everything is going smoothly economically. He also pointed out that the situation in the South China Sea remains tense, with the Philippines continuously facing harassment and intimidation. Additionally, at the ASEAN leaders' meeting on October 9, Marcos called on countries not to turn a blind eye to the aggressive illegal actions of external forces, claiming that silence would lead to the decline of ASEAN. His tough stance has led the Philippines to be seen as a troublemaker within ASEAN, creating a sharp conflict with China over the South China Sea issue. Meanwhile, on October 10, Chinese Premier Li Qiang held a sideline meeting with Australian Prime Minister Albanese during the ASEAN conference. According to AFP, Albanese announced afterward that China had agreed to lift import restrictions on Australian lobsters, allowing Australia to resume lobster exports to China this year. This marks the complete lifting of China's 4-year-long trade restrictions on Australia. Looking back to 2020, Australia halted imports of coal, barley, wine, and lobsters from China, totaling $20 billion Australian dollars, after demanding an investigation into the origins of the COVID-19 virus. During the meeting, Li Qiang stated that the essence of China-Australia relations is mutual benefit, and China is willing to share more development opportunities with Australia. However, despite the lifting of trade restrictions, Australia's political stance has not changed. It remains a core member of AUKUS, Australia-UK-US Security Alliance, and continues to curb China's influence in the South Pacific region. News Report 2. On October 10, the renminbi exchange rate continued to decline, reaching a low of 7.0814 during trading and closing at 7.0787, down 114 basis points from the previous trading day, marking its third consecutive day of decline and hitting a new low in 3 weeks. In the offshore market, the renminbi dropped to 7.0944 during Asian trading and was reported at 7.0870 at 9:45 a.m. New York time. On that day, the People's Bank of China set the midpoint rate for the renminbi at 7.0742, a decrease of 174 basis points from the previous trading day, marking a new low since September 19. Traders noted that the decline in the renminbi is primarily related to the strength of the US dollar, which stood at 102.92 on October 10. However, despite foreign securities firms increasing the weighting of Chinese stocks, which theoretically should lead to capital inflows into China and raise the renminbi's value, the currency still depreciated. This situation may indicate that the capital entering the stock market comes from domestic sources, particularly the central bank stabilization funds, rather than overseas capital. Meanwhile, the A-share market experienced significant volatility. The Shanghai Composite Index opened 18 points higher on October 10, but briefly fell to 3,228 points during trading before rebounding significantly, ultimately closing at 3,301 points, maintaining the 3,300-point level, with an increase of 43 points for the day and a trading volume of 947.7 billion yuan, slightly below 1 trillion yuan. The Shenzhen Component Index exhibited more volatility, rising before falling, and closed under pressure at 10,471 points, down 87 points, with a trading volume of 1.2 trillion yuan. Despite the market's severe fluctuations, Chinese investors remain enthusiastic about the stock market. According to reports from Yicai, following the National Day holiday, the trading volume in the gold market in Shenzhen's Shuibei area significantly decreased, with many choosing to sell gold and invest the funds in the stock market. A gold store employee stated that trading volume during the holiday was halved, with almost no one buying gold, and some investors even sold 10 kilograms of gold bars at once to invest in the stock market. This suggests that many investors were not on vacation during the National Day holiday but were raising funds to invest in the stock market. News Report 3. On October 8, the U.S. ambassador to Japan, Emmanuel, published an article in the Wall Street Journal titled, "An Alliance to Counter Chinese Aggression." In the article, he called for the U.S. and its allies to form an economic version of NATO to isolate China economically. Emmanuel pointed out that over the past 3 years, the U.S. has strengthened cooperation with allies in the Indo-Pacific region, altering the security landscape and successfully isolating China. He believes that now the U.S. can form a trade alliance with these allies to address China's economic coercion strategies and reduce dependence on China. To ensure the effectiveness of this trade alliance, Emmanuel suggested that its provisions should mimic Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, which states that an attack on one country is considered an attack on all member states. He cited Australia as an example. When Australia called for an investigation into the origins of COVID-19, it faced economic sanctions from China. He further noted that as China continues to export excess capacity globally, particularly in steel, electric vehicles, and critical minerals, there will be greater economic struggles ahead. In fact, the U.S. had previously promoted the establishment of a similar, trade version of NATO, namely the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, which was led by the Obama administration. However, the Trump administration withdrew from the agreement, and the TPP subsequently evolved into the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, losing some of its influence. Emmanuel expressed regret over the TPP's failure to continue, viewing it as a policy left unfinished. News Report 4. According to Asia Radio, an increasing number of Chinese people are illegally crossing into the U.S. through illicit channels, exacerbating the illegal immigration issue in Mexico. Reports indicate that these Chinese individuals typically rely on smuggling groups or gang organizations to first reach Mexico, from where most then enter the U.S. However, some choose to remain in Mexico, running small businesses or engaging in illegal labor while waiting for opportunities to continue to the U.S. Most of these Chinese immigrants do not speak Spanish or English and face threats from Mexican gangs and pursuits by local police. According to data from the Mexican government, approximately 11,000 Chinese illegal immigrants have been detained in Mexico in the first 7 months of this year, a number almost on par with the total for the previous year. Reports also indicate that the actual number of undocumented immigrants may be far higher, as most Chinese illegal immigrants go undetected, and the situation is more serious than it appears. News Report 5. The World Journal reported that UBS's recently released Global Real Estate Bubble Index indicates that Miami, Los Angeles, and Boston in the U.S. are at risk of real estate bubbles. The report noted that Miami ranks first globally in bubble risk, with housing prices rising 50% since the end of 2019, including a 7% increase just last year. Los Angeles ranks fourth globally, with a price increase significantly higher than San Francisco. Even though the population has declined, bubble risk continues to rise. Boston's housing prices have increased by 20% since 2019, surpassing the growth rate of the local rental market and income. In addition to these 3 U.S. cities, Zurich and Geneva in Switzerland, Toronto in Canada, and Tokyo in Japan are also listed as cities at risk of real estate bubbles. However, UBS's report has been criticized by some commentators for its limited reference value. The reason is that price increases are not solely linked to local residents' incomes but are also influenced by external factors, particularly the influx of wealthy populations. For example, one of the main reasons for the price increases in cities like Tokyo, Boston, and Los Angeles is the purchasing of real estate by wealthy individuals from countries like China. This influx of affluent people is not closely related to local residents' income growth, and therefore, rent and wage increases alone cannot explain the rising housing prices. Especially in Tokyo, the reasons for rising housing prices also include the influx of immigrants and the concentration of numerous job opportunities, attracting people from other cities. These factors have driven continuous growth in housing prices. Therefore, some commentators believe that UBS's report has not adequately considered these significant driving factors, questioning its conclusions. News Report 6. According to Bloomberg, OpenAI announced on October 9 that Chinese hackers had launched a phishing attack on OpenAI employees in an attempt to steal data. The report stated that these hackers impersonated users of ChatGPT and contacted OpenAI via email, requesting customer service. The emails contained attachments with malware that, once opened, could allow the hackers to take screenshots and steal data. OpenAI stated that the attack by Chinese hackers was unsuccessful. However, the report pointed out that as competition between the US and China in the field of artificial intelligence intensifies, incidents of Chinese hackers stealing US AI technology have become more frequent. In March of this year, a Chinese-American software engineer at Google drew attention for stealing AI technology from Google. Such cyber attacks indicate that the technological competition in the field of AI is driving an increase in cybersecurity risks. News Report 7. In his double 10th National Day speech on October 10, Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te mentioned Republic of China 10 times and Taiwan 46 times, emphasizing Taiwan's democratic stance. Compared to last year's speech by President Tsai Ing-wen, Lai referred to the Republic of China 5 more times and Taiwan 9 more times. Diplomatic analysts believe that Lai's reiteration of the Republic of China's legitimacy clearly indicates that the People's Republic of China has no right to represent the Taiwanese people, emphasizing the difference between democracy in Taiwan and authoritarianism in China, and noting that the international community expects to see a strong democratic Taiwan. Additionally, sources from the presidential office revealed that Lai expressed goodwill for maintaining peace in the Taiwan Strait during his speech, emphasizing his image as a stable and responsible leader. This position aims to gain recognition from the international community, including the United States and Japan, regarding Taiwan's stability and sense of responsibility. Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning stated at a regular press conference that Taiwan has never been a country and can never become one. The Taiwan Affairs Office criticized Lai's speech for promoting separatist claims and inciting hostility across the Taiwan Strait, believing this will bring disaster to the Taiwanese people. Regarding the situation in the Taiwan Strait, the Taiwanese Ministry of National Defense reported that on October 9, 27 PLA aircraft, 9 naval vessels, and 5 Coast Guard ships were active around the Taiwan Strait, with 15 aircraft crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait into Taiwan's northern, central, and southwestern airspace. Meanwhile, the Taiwanese Coast Guard seized a Chinese fishing boat and its 9 crew members on October 8 for fishing in restricted waters near the Penghu Islands. The Navy stated it would take action to respond to unauthorized Chinese vessels entering Taiwan's restricted waters, ensuring the safety and order of the maritime area. News Report 8. The Hong Kong Institute of Human Resource Management released the latest survey results on October 10, showing that the average salary increase for Hong Kong employees in the first 3 quarters of 2024 was 3.2%, down 0.6% from the same period last year. Considering the rise in the Consumer Price Index, CPI, from January to August, the actual salary increase in Hong Kong was 1.4%. The survey found that about 80% of Hong Kong employees received a pay raise, while 19.8% did not. On the corporate side, 91.7% of Hong Kong companies reported giving salary increases this year, while only 8.3% did not provide raises. The salary increase for local companies was 3.4%, while the increase for multinational companies was 2.6%. Notably, 63% of Hong Kong companies expect the salary increase next year to reach approximately 3.6%. This survey was conducted in September this year, covering 186 Hong Kong companies and involving around 100,000 employees. The results reflect the wage growth situation during Hong Kong's economic recovery and employers' expectations for the future. News Report 9. According to Tsai Xin, the Intermediate People's Court of Huanggang City, Hubei Province, sentenced Fan Yifei, deputy governor of the People's Bank of China, to death with a 2-year reprieve for bribery on October 10. According to the judgment, Fan Yifei illegally accepted property amounting to a total equivalent of 380 million yuan through the abuse of his power. Fan Yifei is the first high-ranking official from the People's Bank of China to be convicted. At 58 years old and from Jiangsu Province, he graduated from the Jiangsu Construction Bank Finance and Economics School in 1982 and subsequently worked at the Construction Bank before being transferred to the People's Bank as deputy governor. Fan Yifei was investigated in November 2022, and this ruling has sparked widespread public attention regarding corruption among officials. Reports indicate that Fan Yifei's case highlights the phenomenon of some government officials breaking the law, reflecting the complexity and severity of the anti-corruption struggle. News Report 10. According to Voice of America, Human Rights Watch recently released a report stating that the Chinese government is using transnational harassment and intimidation tactics to prevent Chinese and Hong Kong residents living in Japan from participating in protests and rights defense actions. The report mentioned that Human Rights Watch interviewed 25 ethnic minorities from various regions in China, including Xinjiang, Tibet, and Inner Mongolia, most of whom reported that Chinese police warned them through their relatives in China not to participate in activities critical of the Chinese government, even demanding they provide information about the Uyghur community in Japan. For example, the parents of Hong Kong activist Li Yidong received letters from China listing all of his activities in Japan and demanding they publicly apologize. Although these threats are relatively low-key and not easily noticed by the Japanese government, they are enough to instill fear in the Chinese diaspora in Japan. Professor Aki Tomoko from the University of Tokyo stated that the activities of Chinese and Hong Kong residents in Japan have decreased, partly due to these threats, making them more cautious about sensitive issues for fear of retaliation from the Chinese government. Human Rights Watch emphasized that China's harassment and intimidation strategies against overseas expatriates are highly sophisticated, indicating a strong crackdown on dissenters and rights defense activities. Despite these actions being difficult for the outside world to perceive, their impact is profound. News Report 11. According to Reuters, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit will be held in Islamabad, Pakistan, from October 14 to 17. During the meeting, Pakistan has decided to prohibit local Chinese citizens from going out, including activities within the city, traveling to other cities, or going to the airport, in order to reduce the risk of attacks on Chinese citizens. Pakistan has notified the Chinese government of this decision, to which the Chinese government has not responded. This decision is related to the frequent attacks on Chinese citizens in Pakistan. A recent incident occurred on October 6, when a convoy from the China-funded Kashi Port Power Station was attacked, resulting in the deaths of 2 Chinese engineers. The separatist armed group, Baloch Liberation Army, claimed responsibility for this incident. The report indicates that this situation reflects the reality of a backward regime taking conservative measures under a poorly managed environment, supported by another backward regime. The Chinese government has become accustomed to the phenomenon of restricting citizens' travel and has not strongly opposed it. News Report 12. The Swedish Academy announced on October 10 in Stockholm that this year's Nobel Prize in Literature has been awarded to South Korean writer Han Kang. She is the first South Korean writer to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature and the first Asian woman to be honored with this award. The Nobel Prize Committee praised Han Kang's works as poetically powerful prose that confronts historical trauma and exposes the fragility of human life. At 53 years old, Han Kang is currently a professor in the Department of Creative Writing at the Korea National University of Arts. She began her literary career in 1993. Her 2007 novel, The Vegetarian, brought her international recognition, while her 2014 work, The White Book, focuses on the Gwangju Uprising of 1980, depicting the massacre of hundreds of students and civilians by the South Korean army, aiming to give voice to the brutal realities of the Gwangju incident. Before the award announcement, Han Kang was not widely considered a frontrunner. Her name did not appear on many experts' prediction lists. British bookmakers indicated that the odds for the Nobel Prize in Literature favored Chinese writer Qin Shui in the first position, followed by Japanese author Haruki Murakami, who has been nominated 19 times but has yet to win.